Greetings. Oh my gosh. Welcome to day 4 of the 2023 Please Ask campaign and training. So far, we have heard from Arthur Diggs regarding how to talk to kids about topics such as body safety. We also got the chance to hear from advocate Katie, who helped shed some insight into how certain systems actually need to change in order for us to see childhood sexual abuse come to an end. On day 3, we got to hear from the amazing goddess Jasmine, who is a childhood sexual abuse survivor. And she spoke about how her experience has actually affected her life. So if any of you have missed any of those healing conversations, please be sure to head over to our YouTube to check out everything and get caught up. For day 4, I want to welcome 2 amazing speakers from our 2022 Please Ask campaign. I am so excited to catch up on their journeys with all of you. Before we dive in, let's go ahead and hear from each one as they tell us their name, who they are, and why they joined our panel today. Mars, do you want to start us off?
Okay, yes. Hi, I'm Mars. I use he and they pronouns. And yeah, I participated last year. I am a survivor of child sexual abuse. And gosh, I feel like so much has happened since our conversation last year.
Right.
But yeah, I'm happy to be here and continue just being a part of this project because I just really trust your vision, and I think it's just something very needed. And yeah, I love what you're doing, and yeah, I want to be a
Thank
part of it.
you. I appreciate that so much. Betsy.
Hi, beautiful people. My name is Betsy Perez, and I am so excited to be here. I really wanted to join the panel because I wanted to be in the space with all the other individuals that were on the Please Ask campaign, and because I love Journey to Self and what the organization stands for, what your personal values are, Aniqua. They definitely align with some of my personal values, especially as someone who experienced childhood sexual trauma, their childhood, and sexual violence, right, into adulthood.
Right.
So I definitely wanted to come back on, catch up with everybody, and just have another leg of a conversation that's going to be supportive to other people.
Yes, y'all. I am so just grateful for your time. I am looking forward to finding out how each of you are actually leading a healthy and peaceful life after trauma. One thing that I feel like we do throughout this campaign is be able to like uplift and encourage other survivors. So if you don't mind, Betsy, lead us off by just letting us know, how are you leading like a peaceful life today?
Bueno. I must say this, that in particular, 2022 was the year where I was able to breathe into a sense of peace that I've been preparing for. So I always reference my 20s because my 20s were the decade that I really intentionally put the effort, the very mindful, intentional effort to repair my relationship with myself and my sexuality, and really develop myself emotionally and sexually and mentally and just overall. That this year, I have really been able to accept that the other shoe is not going to drop because I have 2 feet on the ground. So there is no space for the shoe to drop unless I take the motherfucker off. So for me, I definitely just accepting that I am no longer traumatized. Not that I'm not no longer traumatized, I'm no longer debilitated in the way that I was. And so therefore the victimhood that I had lived in for a while, which was necessary, was no longer necessary, because now I actually knew how to care for myself emotionally. And one of the number one things that I have been doing is eating, is actually moving consistently and doing my writing. And that for me, and having that triad has really helped me feel present and quite literally embodied and full. So I'm filling myself with actual life, and presence and stillness. So that for me has brought me such peace of mind, but just peace from head to toe. So that for me has been really, really healing and solidifying. And that, okay, all of the trials and errors, and I still fuck up, right? Like there's days that I may not eat as well, or I may not move as much. However, I'm not debilitated in as long or at the magnitude that I was before. And 2022, this last particular year, has been very it's just about settling into that peace that you're talking about.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Mars, what do you have to add? Let us know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you were saying, Betsy, also resonates with me. Um, yeah, last year was pretty rough. There was a lot of crying happening and just being really activated. Um, and I had this just wild journey of really um like mapping out my triggers, like like literally writing down on a worksheet, like, okay, these are my triggers, and like what can I do when I happen upon them, like, and what can I do to avoid them, like literally just like mapping out my triggers. And like I took this centered accountability course to also, yeah, just like what is happening with my mind and my body when I'm being activated, how can I prevent it, and like really like connect to like just like, okay, that's something that happened in the past, like this is like actually not a threat, but like my mind is like, yeah, just like traveling back. But yeah, just like reminding myself, okay, like I'm an adult now, like I'm an adult, just like remember I'm an adult. And yeah, I did a lot of work like that. And this year, one of my intentions for the year is stillness. And you said the word stillness, that I'm trying to integrate more stillness and more just like nothingness, where I'm just like present with my body, like checking in with my body more. And so I started meditating again. I used to meditate every single day, twice a day for a while. And it's been years since I've done that. So I'm trying to like bring that back and just like get back into my yoga practice and just like be more present with my body. Like, how's my body doing? Like, just like scanning my body, and like, how's my mind doing? Like, how do I feel today? Like, just asking myself, like, how do I feel? So that's I feel like the year is like starting off really well, because I'm like doing it. I'm like
awesome.
Doing my yoga, doing my meditation, and that. I did a sound bath last like a week ago, and that was really good too. I haven't done one of those in a while. So yeah, more stillness.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I definitely resonate with what both of you said. Before we came into this conversation, I was actually sharing how 2022 kicked my butt, like from a healing perspective, right? So many reminders of my childhood sexual trauma presented itself. And I was actually seeing it through my relationships and my interaction and encounters with others. And so I slowly started to see, okay, who needed to leave my life, because it wasn't a need for those bonds anymore, right? And so I started to get to this place of loneliness, if you will, because so many changes were happening for the good, but it was still a little frightening. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm losing my sense of control. What's happening here? And it forced me to get to know myself again in this current stage that I'm in, right? And so, yeah, having to meditate. I actually started doing Pilates too. I tried yoga, and yoga is always so hard for me. I can't wait to connect with Nikki, who was also another 2022 speaker, and she's a trauma-informed yoga instructor, because I'm like, I can't get it. Like, I'm bent and I'm twisted, and I'm like, I'm not even breathing at this point. But Pilates, y'all, Pilates has brought me a lot of peace. Like, I feel so cute when I'm doing it. I feel like my feminine energy.
That's important.
Right. Like, I feel like it literally increases my feminine energy. And I don't know about you guys, but my history and my just whole experience with childhood sexual abuse had my just hormones all out of whack. So there would be days when I didn't even really feel like my true self, like I felt like I was more masculine and like more just protective and not really like able to receive love or support. And so Pilates has been a really good way for me to somewhat reverse that and get to like this balanced state of being. So there's my 2 cents on that part. And I think it's also very interesting when you're in this space of healing and you're focused on finding peace or having peace, and you realize like, dang, I'm literally having to heal from something that is not my fault, right? Like, it's not my fault that I'm going through these things and I'm having these adverse reactions, but it is my responsibility to like care for myself through the healing process. Did any of you, if you don't mind me asking, have like an adult or a caring figure in your life when you were a child that somewhat poured into you and served as this safe space for you? I'm curious. Betsy?
Uh, what's fascinating to me is that what I have realized is that, for me, my parents and my home wasn't a safe space. It wasn't safe for me emotionally and physically.
Right.
That's how it felt.
Yeah.
And so I'll say this, that my mother, my dad, I feared them. And also there was a warped idea of the truth in my family. And also, there is this idea, right, for children, the lived experience of children is not valued, at least in Dominican culture. Maybe now where there's more conversations that are being had about children's rights and on the island that are coming from a lot of the mainland, like stateside things that are penetrating now the culture. However, growing up as a kid and my parents' generation and stuff, there, the lived experience of children wasn't valued. So I didn't have an adult in particular tell me that this is a possibility. However, what I will say is that because I was being violated in that way, and then I had my parents that their physical their punishment that was masked as discipline, right? Because there's a difference between discipline and punishment. Their punishments were extreme, that I romanticized safety with like cousins and things like that, like with like my older cousins and whatnot. However, I think maybe I had one person that I felt really close to, but then it just got warped. It really, because I, as a kid, I wanted love, and so then I would get jealous if, this older cousin was with another cousin. And there was, I think that my relational skills were already damaged, that I romanticized safety, and I didn't necessarily feel safe. What I wanted was to be loved and touched and wanted. And I think in that vein, it was hard for me to feel safe, but it was easy for me to feel wanted, if that made sense, because I didn't have an idea of safety, but I did know what it was to feel wanted. And if I felt wanted, I felt good. But that was also a temperamental kind of, like an elusive kind of experience. So if that makes any sense.
Right. It definitely does. It definitely does. What about you, Mars? Did you have like an adult or a safe space you could turn to when you were a child?
I definitely did not have an adult that I could turn to when I was a kid. Um, yeah, like my similar to, again, what you were saying, Betsy, my home was not a safe place to be physically, like emotionally, sexually. Like it was, yeah, it was no place for a child to be. Um, so yeah, my people in my family were my abusers. Um, and so yeah, there were no teachers or counselors or anything, like no adults that I could turn to. So I think I spent a lot of time alone as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of just like talking to myself, or kind of like talking to, like, I grew up Catholic, so I guess I was like also kind of like talking to God and Jesus and stuff. Um, just like, why am I here? Like this, I don't know, just like asking all these like existential questions,
Right.
and kind of just, I kind of just like went in and kind of just like imagined, like, okay, the people here don't seem, they say they love me, but they're hurting me. Like there's got to be like something beyond what I can see, that I don't know. I would just like imagine like what it could look like, what it could be
Right.
like.
Yeah.
And also I would kind of like get lost in video games, and like the story of like video games, of like just like being in this other world where I can kind of like, I would just like escape. I would
Exactly.
go inward and I would escape. Um, but yeah, there were no adults I could ever turn to.
Right. And it's actually the exact same thing for me. I was surrounded by a lot of adults growing up, but no one actually served as that safe space for me. No one spoke to me about body safety and boundaries, or even like my right to say no and things of that nature. And so I wanted to uplift like this moment during our discussion today so that viewers can literally see how no matter who you are and what you've gone through, a similar trait when it comes to childhood sexual abuse is the fact that we did not have, you know, anyone there to serve as this caring figure in our life when we needed it the most, right? And so hopefully like this moment just empowers people more to understand the urgent need of the Please Ask campaign and getting to this comfort level of feeling empowered, right? To serve as this person for any child in their life. I know I am so committed to being this for my two girls and my cousins and just whoever I come across, because I always think about just that little Aniqua and how more, I think, safe, you know, and like healthier my childhood would have been if someone would have just asked or like saw me and like picked up on those signs and those struggles. So thank you both so much for shedding some insight into that. And going back a little bit more on just 2022 and all of the big life changes that I personally experienced that actually caused me to revisit some healing strategies. I want to also highlight the fact that the healing journey is continuous, right? Like at times I'll get in my head and feel like, Aniqua, you've already healed from that. Like, why is it showing up again? Why are you like hyperventilating or doubting yourself? Or now you're detached and you can't even remember like what you did last week? Like, what is going on? Right. And so 2022 was about loving myself and being very gentle and kind to myself, to where whenever the need to revisit healing came up, it wasn't like a beat me down. Like I wasn't bullying myself and making myself feel bad, about needing to pour this extra sense of care into myself. And so, with that being said, I am interested in knowing if either of you have any advice for someone who is currently battling like the heaviness associated with trauma responses. What would that advice be to someone who is like currently going through the motions? You want to start us off, Mars, with that?
Sure. Um, there's, I mean, I think the first thing is just like remembering you're an adult and there is something you can do. You're not powerless. You can do something. And that can take shape as in like getting professional help.
Right.
One of my favorites was, and like completely changed my life, is going to EMDR therapy. And I meant to say this in the previous question, that even though there wasn't an adult at the time, what I did in EMDR therapy, I became that adult that my childhood self can trust. And that's like part of the work in EMDR therapy, is like just like reconnecting with your inner child. And although it can be very tough, like kind of revisiting the like particular instances or scenes, and kind of like, yeah, in that work you would kind of, as your adult self, like step into that scene and like take your inner child to like a safe place and just be like, hey, like this is like not okay. So you're kind of like changing the story a little bit and like stepping in as your adult self. And I really liked that work, just really reconnecting with my inner child. And it's not easy. It's not easy work. A lot of tears will be shed. But that's like one thing. And I guess it really just, I don't know, just talking about it, even if you're talking to like, a close friend that you trust, or as I was saying earlier, just like connecting to like, how do I feel? And one thing I really like to do when I started my like journey to loving myself is asking why. Like, okay, I feel this way. Well, why? Because da 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 da. Okay, well, why? Just like I would just like a little kid, just like keep asking why, like why this, why that, why this. I think just, I mean, I think, like this program is also like a resource. I feel like just looking for like resources. Like I literally searched on YouTube, how do I love myself? Like it seems like so silly, but like one of the first videos I saw like changed my life. Yes. And basically it was just like this woman who maybe had like 50 subscribers, and like the video had been viewed like 20 times or something, and she just said something so poignant. It was like, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. And that like changed my life. It was like such a simple statement, but like it changed my life. So I was just like so desperate. I was like, how do I love myself? Like it's never happened before.
Right.
So just like there are things you can do. The resources are out there. So yeah.
Definitely. And just to highlight more, the whole just act of loving yourself. So outside of the Please Ask campaign, of course, Journey to Self, we do a lot of self work, right? The whole purpose is to help us heal and morph into the just best versions of ourselves. And so last fall, during the month of November, we literally tackled this, Mars. We were talking about the importance of self-love, but we did it from a way of actually how. Like, what are some tools, resources, and mechanisms that you can use to actively love yourself? Like, we keep hearing, like, the key is self love. And it's like, okay, but how do I do that? So,
Yes.
I definitely invite the viewers to, again, check out our YouTube page. It was a 4-episode series, and we got to hear from these just amazing individuals on their self-love journey. And they actually gave like true actionable items that we can do to increase our self-love. And it was mind-blowing. So I had to share that. And Betsy, I am so interested in hearing just the advice that you have too, because you actually made a big impact on my life when it comes to a lot of what Mars was saying about reparenting, if you will, like your inner child. You actually introduced that concept to me. And I don't know if I ever told you that during the 2022 Please Ask campaign, and it has been profound in my healing journey.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love reparent. I think that reparenting is huge.
Yeah.
And I never done EMDR. However, I always love to hear about individuals' experience with it and how restorative it has been, and such a tool to support them in repairing that internal landscape. That is right, the nervous system and all the things. So I totally feel you in becoming that adult for yourself, Mars. Because that's one of the biggest things that it sucks to realize. I have to now take responsibility for all of this. It sucks. It really does suck. So I don't think any of us are about to tell y'all that it's peaches and cream. No, it's fuck shit. It sucks, but we got to do it. And eventually it does get better. It really does. And one of the things that, if you are, I call it a drowning on dry land. Because it almost feels like you feel the incoming, like when you were talking about like mapping your triggers, Mars, it's like you feel the incoming wave. It's like in the like once you become so aware of these things, like you feel it, the incoming, and it's like you can brace for it. And I think that's also the beauty of the process. And I think that for me, one of the biggest things I can share is that creating a shared reality with yourself, which is like one of the things that you were saying, Mars, is that there's nothing wrong with you. And also accept that you feel like shit. Accept that this is happening. Accept that you are losing control, that your life is upside down. Have that shared reality with yourself first, because you're going to have a more difficult time having a shared reality with the people that you love and that you care about and that you want to be loved by and cared for. So I really do emphasize this. If someone asks you how you're doing, don't say you're okay if you're not okay. Let them know. You don't have to go into details, but let them know that you're not okay, so that at the very least, people can treat you with a little bit more delicacy. Because sometimes I think like that we've talked, we just kind of keep going, and we want to be strong, that masculinity, that lack of reception. So for me, one of the biggest things that helped me when I was like in the trenches, and even in moments still now where sometimes I just kind of want to be like I'm good. No, create a shared reality with the people that are in your life, and let them, and it's okay, it's going to be scary, but accept first, say it out loud to yourself that you're not good, and make it a practice. Like, I know that I'm not okay right now. I'm gonna keep going, but I know that I'm not okay. I think that that's super important to create a shared reality with yourself inside, and then like be willing to tell someone, I'm not okay, even if it's just one person. And let your exhales be longer than your inhales.
Yes.
And if there's anything, when you breathe, let out some noise that maybe only you hear it, but let that exhale be longer than that inhale. If there's anything, and that's,
Yes.
I think, shared reality, longer exhales.
Mhm.
I love it. Literally, mindful breathing is everything. Like, I never realized how wrong I was breathing until I started to like do these mindful breathing practices. And I'm like, wait, like, how am I still walking and alive right now? Like, I barely take in, oxygen to the point where I'm actually able to release like those invisible things, right? That need to be released. And a lot of what I did in 2022 to get me through just all of the heaviness I shared was I actually started back therapy. At one point, I was in therapy, in counseling, doing it very strategically, if you will. And I decided, you know what, I'm feeling really good. And so I somewhat went from weekly to every other week to here and there. And 2022, I literally was trembling. I was calling my therapist, like, girl, please tell me that you can see me, like, and she's usually so booked, but everything happens in divine timing. And she's like, I could literally see you like in the next few days. And so getting back on her schedule and being able to have that outlet to where I can speak my truths, right? And be able to be heard, and leave with some like useful resources and tools definitely helped. And I'm like, okay, I clearly need to keep this in the rotation for a little bit longer. We have shared some really good just advice throughout our conversation so far. Mars, you even dropped some resources and different type of therapy that people can also use. Betsy, do you have any other resources you maybe want to uplift during our time today? Anything in particular?
Yes, organization that I have been a part of who do healing circles for adults who have experienced childhood sexual trauma, and also they take a very holistic approach and a restorative justice approach to childhood sexual abuse and to support the family and also individuals who have harmed children. So Hidden Waters is an organization, and I don't know if maybe any of you have heard of it, but it's housed. We it's located here in New York. However, there are healing circles that happen online and in person. So these healing circles happen throughout the world, and they are in Spanish and in English. So we have green circles that are for individuals who have experienced harm. They have purple, blue, and orange circles. The purple circles is for individuals who have harmed. The orange and the blue circles, I may get them mixed up, but these two circles are for individuals who were caretakers of a child who was harmed. And then there's also for a family member who did not commit the harm, but was impacted as well. So there is a ring of circles that are available to the public and for individuals who have harmed, who have been impacted by harm. And then there's other kind of circles for individuals of color, circles for LGBTQIA individuals. There's a bunch of different circles, Spanish speaking. So, and their circles start February 6th. So right now is actually a great time. They're free as well. This is free circles. They run 12 weeks. I've ran a couple, and I have been a part of the circles and things like that. So super amazing experience. You don't have to talk about the harm that you experience. You're literally talking where you're at.
I love it.
Cool. 12 weeks, a 12-week container. So if anybody is interested in being in that space, I think that recommend it to anyone. It's
I
really
love it. And you said that's also virtual too,
they have
right? So we
also
don't have to be in New York. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to get like a link or something from you so I could share that on Journey to Self's platform so that way people can see it. And definitely, I love it. Mars, you're in New York too, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Any resources you know about that you want to uplift? Have you heard of this one that Betsy mentioned?
I haven't, but I want to check that out. I definitely want to check
Yeah.
that out. I used to attend ASCA meetings, adult survivors of child abuse. So it's kind of not just sexual abuse, but kind of just like any. Um, and I was doing that for a couple of years. I haven't been to a meeting in a minute, but that has been also very helpful. Just yeah, like, and I was attending online, so you could be there's ASCA meetings all over the place, and they're online, and it feels good to just like be around people who know what you're going through because they're
Right.
going through it too. And there's younger people, not so much like teenagers, but like people in their early 20s. But I've also seen people who are like much older and like like also like struggling. And I think that's like really beautiful that we can like come together and yeah, like just like talk about our
Definitely.
experiences and like figure out how to like together like how to get through this. So
Right. I
word.
feel like, oh, did I cut you off, Betsy?
No, I was just like word.
Yes, I love it. I feel like there is so much healing that takes place in community, especially when you have these judgment-free spaces where you're not feeling like awkward or questioned, maybe even not believed, but literally just these safe spaces to exist, right? And as both of you know, I usually talk about my motherhood journey a lot, but I have two little ones. And actually going through childhood sexual abuse, I feel like it's impacted my motherhood journey a lot. In order for me to actually like begin to remember the abuse I went through, what actually led to that was me getting a child to come live with me who had experienced sexual abuse. So I was somewhat like her caretaker, which is why I'm also really interested in that circle that you mentioned, Betsy. But I was her caretaker. And so slowly I started to like piece together different traumas and different things that I experienced in my childhood. And that actually sent me into like a state of panic. And so at that time, I had only had one daughter. And I literally, like, from this space of fear, started to like talk to her about sexual abuse and boundaries and things of this nature. But again, it was from a place of fear. And so when I finally started to get resources and different like age appropriate tools that I can use to actually have these like healthier and more gentle conversations with my child, I was actually able to be a little bit more successful in having the conversation with my now 3-year-old daughter, so my youngest. And I literally think being able to take what we've experienced and find a way to educate ourselves with the right tools to now be a voice or be a source of protection for another child is so important. And while we all are not parents, right, we still have children in our lives that we are connected to and that we care for and that we may even provide like love and support for. So how do you guys talk to kids in your life? And if you don't, how could J2S help you feel empowered to do so? Betsy, you want to take us away?
Of course. Um, uh, how do I the children in my life and how do I talk to them about sexual abuse
Yeah.
is I talk to them about their bodies in particular. If I am I am very cognizant of setting an example for the adults in the room. So
Yes.
I do my best to, if I'm meeting a child, go down to that child's level. I'm willing to I'm willing to submit to the physicality of the child. I'm willing to give up my stature, my
Right.
what do I represent, and make myself small too, so that I can have a shared reality to the best that I can with this child. So I definitely, I start with just being loving, asking them how they're doing, saying hello to them, allowing them to know that I see you, I'm mindful of you, and treating them as I would an adult in terms of respect, and acknowledging that they are what, for whatever reason, why in the conversation, given that the conversation is appropriate, right?
Right.
So I think that for me, the biggest thing that I do is acknowledge, let them know that I see them and that I acknowledge them. And also I indulge in their reality, in like their playfulness, and asking questions like that. Why? Like very much how you were saying, Mars, like staying curious internally, staying curious with them. And because that for me is the most important. And hopefully, like the hope is that I create a pattern, a rapport with this child. I'm building a relationship with them, that if and when something were to take place, that they know that, hey, this is one of the adults that did see me, that did thing me. Because it's not so much like, at least in my family, I remember a very particular moment with my little cousin when she was about 7 years old, and there was commentary being made about her body and like her getting fat and things. I mean, she's a 6-year-old, she's a 7-year-old, for God's sake.
Right.
And right in front of her, please do not talk about the child's body in that way. Not in front of her, period, not ever.
Right.
She's and reaffirming her, right? Because then those little small things, we may not be talking outright about sexual abuse, but nevertheless, you can't talk about sex without the body. You can't talk about the body without sex. So I think that for me, what I've experienced most is the like more of the objectification of like the children in my family in that way. So I think that having those little moments of those small moments of bodies being targeted or like violated or shamed in that way in public, in this way where everyone's looking, I think that that's where I am. I try to be I am a voice, not that I try. I'm
right.
Like, this is not what we're doing, and letting them see that there is an adult that's willing to bat for them in public, like just not in the public. So
right.
And the biggest thing for me.
Wow, I love it. Mars, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I love that. I love that also. That's beautiful. I don't have a lot of kids in my life that I'm close to. A lot of the kids that I know one of the many jobs I do, I'm a dog walker. And so a lot of my clients have children, and like the children like love me, I think, because I'm not the adult like in the room telling them what to do. And I'm also like, I just feel like a big kid. And so, and yeah, I like get down like on their level, and I talk to them. Like I just like you were saying, Betsy, just like I see them. I just say like, hey, how are you doing today? How was school? Like I'm just talking to them.
Right.
And so yeah, I just like make sure that they're feeling seen, and I'm also curious, like, my childhood was very different. So like I want to like see what their childhood is like, and like are they having fun and like being treated nicely and like not being bullied, and so I'm just like asking how are they, and just seeing, just like getting a little peek of like what their world is like. So yeah, like you were saying, Betsy, just talking to them, just saying hi, how are you? So that's what I try to do.
I love it. Both of you guys are just absolutely amazing. Like, I know I say it all the time, but I am just so blessed and honored to know you, to have had our paths cross in this way, to where we can not only support each other, but we can still come together and like spread this healing energy and this knowledge to many other people. Our 2022 Please Ask campaign had over 7,000 views. And I was just like, this is our first year and this is like amazing, right? And so just thinking about all the lives like we've impacted so far. I can't send you guys enough praises. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I can, of course, spend all day catching up and talking to you guys, but I want to respect everyone's time. So I am going to wrap up our conversation by just reminding viewers to please, please, please check out our YouTube page, because mainly I would love for you to hear more from Betsy and Mars as it relates to the 2022 campaign. We talked about so many topics, whether it was the life of the survivor, even just debunking some myths about offenders and things of that nature. So please be sure to check it out. And of course, I look forward to seeing all of you for day 5 tomorrow, as we begin to just tap into a little collective healing and do some call to action work. Before we wrap up, do you guys have any parting words you want to say? Betsy?
I want to say I very much to the EMDR and the storytelling, as a performer and as a writer, and I definitely am big on adults who have experienced childhood sexual trauma, of writing their stories, of performing their stories, of putting their stories somewhere where it can be seen and received. And I just want to encourage individuals to keep writing, storytelling, quite literally, and echoing what Mars said. You know, storytelling gives you new endings. And when I mean new endings, I mean in like neural pathways and your nervous system. So if you can find a way to begin retelling the story in a way that is going to support you in receiving the love, in having the sex that you desire, in having the peace that you desire, then you know, I encourage you to sit down and write it out. Write it out and then scream about it and then yell about it and then cry about it and then read it to somebody.
Yes.
Those are my parting words.
I love it. Mars, any parting words from you?
I just want to, I mean, I feel like Betsy pretty much said it all. Yeah, I think, I mean, I feel like what you said was perfect, really.
Right. Like just a big period at the end of that.
Yeah. Like I don't know if I have anything else to add. I just want to just like lift that up. Like, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I am definitely going to tag you both just in everywhere that this video will be, which is our Facebook, our Instagram. We're also slowly incorporating TikTok. So we'll have some snippets on there as well, in our YouTube, so that viewers can find you and engage with you more. Betsy actually does like sensual writing courses that are virtual. And so people can also go to her platform and sign up for those classes. I am just so excited and so eager to just continue the healing work with both of you. And until next time, y'all, take care. Peace, love, and light to everyone. Bye.